we're seeing an industry in deep disruption. Will it lead to conformity and blandness? Has the creative industry been put on notice? Join us for breakfast. Today, we're talking to Jeremy Dow, a successful music entrepreneur who saw his record label be completely disrupted by AI and who decided to reinvent the business of music and sponsorship with his new company, Acrylic. Join us for breakfast. Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, Jan.
Thanks for joining us today. So, the point of this podcast is to try and bring a different perspective on how the transformation that the creative industry is undergoing is not just a fatality, that there are fresh opportunities and that entrepreneurs, artists, talent, and the consumers have something to benefit from it, but we sort of have to grab it by the horns and make it what we want.
Thanks for having me. It's really cool to be able to share all this stuff with you, and it's been a long journey, and you're right, it's scary out there. It's scary out there for a lot of creatives who don't know what to do with all these new technologies or how to utilize them in the best way. So yes, I started out as a drummer in France, where I was born and raised. Always was interested in music. I even played piano. My mom's American, so in the summers we'd go to Broadway musicals. My grandfather used to work in the Broadway system. But the memory I have that really stuck with me is when I was 14 years old. This was about a year after Kurt Cobain had died. I was a big Nirvana fan. I was in America and I found a CD with a frog on it, band called Silverchair. The CD is Frog Stomp. And I loved this album. And for me, it was almost like, grunge is still with us and there's still this thing. And I brought it back to France. And
was it a Seattle band?
It was an Australian band, actually.
Was it?
Yeah,
okay.
Australian band, but they had a huge single in the US. So, I was in America and it was one of the top albums at the time. I'm still a huge fan, but none of their records did as well in the US. But they're still an amazing band. Anyways, I digress. So I bring it back to France and I share it with my friends. And this was a real moment for me where I realized the power music had to connect, to really create, sort of an energy between different people that just transcends anything else. And so that was really my first experience in music, even though I had played in bands, and I was just like, wow, I love this. And so I started creating mixtapes at the time. I mean, if you remember, you remember that, right? You'd share mixtapes with people, and that was really kind of like how I realized, wow, music is so powerful, right?
The connected energy.
It's about connection.
Building. Yeah.
I mean, music is about connection, right? When you look at a video, you see what? You see a visual, but you also hear the sound, right? And the sound can either move you or not.
Yeah.
So it's a real power, and I think it's undervalued right now. But,
so how did you take that early love that you had for music, and turn it into a career path at that time? Or was it too early? Were you just exploring, experimenting, or when was the transition? What was the moment where you thought, wow, that's a career path?
I wasn't sure at the time. I remember that, parents had to go to college. I applied for college. When I got to college, and I went to college in the United States after I graduated high school in France, I started playing in bands in college. And I did what I thought was the smartest thing for me to do at the time, was to try and find internships at major labels during the summers. And they were incredibly hard to have. I mean, it was a very, very closed world. And imagine, I was coming from France. I didn't have any connections, but I hustled really hard. And I was able to get 2 internships. One at Sony Music Studios with Vlado Meller, who mastered Red Hot Chili Peppers' Californication and the Weezer Green album. It was
in LA, or was that?
It was in New York.
In New York.
I didn't come to LA till basically 10 years ago.
Okay.
So that was in New York. And then a summer later, I was at Atlantic Records under Bob Kaus, who was the head of artist relations, and, completely different view, outside of the studio, really kind of like marketing and that kind of stuff. And what I learned from those experiences was that I didn't want to work at the major labels. It was just, it sucked the life out of what I felt music really was. And I always wanted the little guys to win. I'm very much a underdog kind of person. And I've always dedicated everything that I've done in my career to helping emerging creatives in music get discovered. And so I knew kind of in a way that there's no way that I could get a job that would allow me to make money and also combine it with these, this drive that I had to help, the little artists get discovered. Yeah. And so I started translating. I mean, I became a legal translator from French to English so I could support myself in managing artists and helping them, grow and break out. So that's really it all started.
Already there, it was a difficult business to be in.
Oh, like incredibly hard.
Right from the get-go. From the 90s and the noughties, it was not an easy...
I've only known struggle. Right? I've only known struggle in music, but it's been so rewarding because there's no price when you see an artist playing in front of tons of people and then coming to you after the show and saying, "Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks for making that happen." And seeing all the people in the crowd being moved by the artist and feeling like you had a little bit of a role to play. Yeah. Maybe the artist could have done it on their own, but you were there for that artist and you didn't ask for money. You just did it out of the goodness of your heart. And thank God for my parents who made me bilingual and allowed me to make money in another way so that I could really give my heart to this. And what that gave me, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more, is it gave me the ability to wear a lot of different hats in music and to see a lot of different areas of music. Right. Not just the major labels, but the independents, live, marketing, all these different things, which later, became an actual job that I had. Right. I mean, I was a VP and I did things in music. But I think all of this was a journey and it's a real pleasure to share it with you because it really shaped who I was and what got me to where I am today, to Acrylic label and all these other things.
So tell me a little bit about, before AI and the major transformation, there was Acrylic, the label. Yeah. Right? Tell me a little bit about Acrylic, the label.
I mean, I hope people can see the big smile on my face. Yeah. That was one of my best times to be alive and working in music. I had actually just gotten let go. I had a big role at a big digital distribution company. I was the head of the US. And I had an idea. And I saw that people were listening to music functionally now. Mm. With Spotify, people were listening to music all the time. And that there were genres that were burgeoning, right? That were really cool, that really spoke to me. And I started listening to in around 2019. And I was thinking, wow, this lo-fi hip hop stuff, it helps me focus. It's great music. It's got something jazzy to it. And it was a whole scene.
So can you unpack a little bit what lo-fi is specifically? What would be like a context that people would hear lo-fi?
I mean, it
sounds, first, when I first heard it, I thought it was kind of like the musics you hear in between areas, like an elevator,
Muzak.
Or like,
it's what people call Muzak from back in the day.
It's like we're asking you to wait. Please listen to something to kind of calm your nerves, right?
I mean, yes, because that's the frame of reference. So I agree with you, but in the world of digital streaming and this unlimited amount of music you could listen to, well, it's a little bit different. Yeah. When you had such a reduced, focus because music was expensive to make, well, you were listening to this music in the elevators and the department stores, and you're like, this sucks. But now you had real producers, talented musicians making this stuff, and lo-fi was just kind of a filter. And it was not a filter. You press a button, it's like, here's the lo-fi. It was a way for artists to create something, I think, that had meaning, that had depth. It made it sound jazzy. It made it sound calm and relaxing. And that's what I mean by functional music. There was a whole side to music with the advent of streaming platforms that became this, well, music can also be therapeutic in a way. Like music can also help me be more productive in a way.
In a way, it's also, I was going through it, Spotify has its annual thing where it shows you the music you listen to. Yeah. I found out I was listening to a lot of lo-fi music, and it's because I listen to it when I'm working. Like today, I think the world is competing for your attention.
100%.
And when you need 2 hours of solid focus, there's nothing is as great, I think, as lo-fi. You put the headphones on and you plunge into your work. Yeah. And I think it's more than just a form of entertainment. In some way, it's become sort of a necessity because you're working from home. It's a busy environment. Yep. And so it gives you that zone in.
100%.
And I thought that was interesting because I think when I grew up, music was party, friends, entertainment, road trips. That was the gamut, right? But now we consume music in so many more ways, so much right? Yeah. And possibly more than we ever have. So the consumption's gone up, right?
Ridiculously. For $10 a month? I mean, anybody could listen to anything they want.
But at the same time, I think what was interesting is, and we kind of need to make this step now, when AI showed up, it was also ripe for disruption because it has this consistency, because it's not seeking to like necessarily, become like a unique pop single in the same way where there's a voice and there's a thing. It's designed to work within an environment or to be adjacent to something else. So
it is.
It's also well suited to an algorithm potentially.
I mean, yeah, and I think a lot of the players, the platforms and stuff, caught onto this and saw the potential in functional music for them to have kind of a bigger share of that whole space. Mostly because a lot of these lo-fi artists are dependent on streaming playlists, right? They don't really have brands. So yes, and to just close the loop with Acrylic label. So all this stuff was happening. Lo-fi hip hop was getting big, and I had worked a lot of my career in Latin, and so for me it was like, well, has anybody done lo-fi Latino, like Latin lo-fi? And I started searching for different genres like that, and I found lo-fi mexa, and this artist called Palmasur, who was insanely talented and creating this like super Mexican vibe lo-fi. And so we started Acrylic label. We launched it in December 2020. And as you say, then AI started to come about 2 years later. So we had 2 incredible years from 2020 to 2022. Our distributor gave us a really big advance. I mean, we were doing great.
Can you give me a sense, a little bit of like the numbers? What as a business, what did that look like?
So in the early days of Acrylic label, for several months, we were doing about $40,000 in just streaming revenue, which for an indie label that was established a year before is just insane.
Yeah.
And because of that, our distribution partner gave us a little over $500,000 advance. The problem is that just 3 months after we got that advance in 2022, AI music was announced. And the playlists that we depended on grew in size. And we started looking at these playlists and be like, why are we losing 75% of our revenue right now? And we couldn't recognize any of these artists. We didn't really know where they were coming from, but still the result was the same. Producers coming to my house saying, Jeremy, what are we going to do? I've got to drive an Uber now. And me thinking, well, we're the label. Like, I'm in bed with you. Like, I don't know what we're going to do. And that was really the moment, like the seminal moment where the idea behind Acrylic really was born. Like when we were really back against the wall and I was like, well, what's the difference between millions of emerging artists and AI robots?
How did that feel, that moment? Because obviously you came out the other side, but did it take you by surprise?
I recall the moment very, very clearly and vividly.
Like when you got the advanced, where was there something in the back of your head saying, this is sort of sunsetting, or this is the beginning of growth? How were you seeing?
Yeah. When we got the advance, it was beautiful. I mean, we had an in-house artist, a designer, who was making all of our cover art, because a lot of these lo-fi guys, like, they made amazing music, but not all of them, were into art and their artwork and whatever. And we wanted to have these incredible covers. And so we kind of created a world where we could make this beautiful art and have beautiful visual art and videos. So like, no, those 2 years were some of the best of my life, if not the best to this point, where I felt like I had creative freedom. I didn't have a boss, telling me, you got to do this.
But could you see a trajectory? Could you go, this is it. This is going to keep going up.
Yeah.
I have
100%.
And so when that playlist started to transform, was it a shock?
It was a shock.
Complete shock?
It was a complete shock. The announce of AI music and the fact that the world was saying, and not just the world, like people were actually telling me, Jeremy, like your music, I can make it with a button now. And I'd look at him and be, really? You can go talk to Paraguayan harpists and say, hey, let's pair you with cool producers in LA to make this music that no one has made before with these instruments that are, hundreds of years old. And, be in the front page of the Asunción, Paraguay arts section of their main, newspaper, and create opportunities for all these people around the world. Like, you can do that with robots? And I refused to believe it, Jan. I refused.
I know the first time I saw a piece of AI video, I studied film, I studied media, I wanted to become a director. I did some commercials, and I thought this was a career path for me.
Yeah.
And when I saw the first ones, I thought really it's going to completely devalue. Even if I felt as an artist, it didn't have the depth and I missed some of the humanness.
Mm-hmm.
I was concerned that it was just going to devalue it as a whole because it would muddy the water. You may have that one nice jewel of a human crafted track, but if you have 20,000 others that are 80%, 90% to the person who's just got their headphones at Starbucks and doing some work, it's a nuance, the difference.
Yeah.
It's just going to demolish the industry. Did you think this is the end of music?
I mean, the idea did cross my mind, but that is when I came up with the idea for Acrylic. It is really at that point because we were all desperate. I remember we were running out of money. We owed our distributor on the advance and we were running out of options. And that's when I literally was on my desk and I got up.
Yeah.
I have a board behind me, a whiteboard.
Yeah.
And I put a line through it and I put millions of emerging artists on the left and AI robots on the right. And I asked myself, what is the difference between the two? How do we fight this? And it came to me and I was like, hold on. Hyper-local, hyper-engaged fan bases. AI robots don't have fans. So no one cares about their music, but we can prove that people care about ours. Maybe it's only 100 fans, but those 100 fans are human. So we better bet on human IP because this war is not over. And that's when really things changed. That's when I had the idea for the Acrylic platform. And then, things grew from there. I had a big meeting with our biggest client to date. I'm not at liberty to tell you who it is, but it's a top tier sports club who they were looking for ways to connect with fans in other markets. Like they have international players and a lot of fans these players played in their national teams. And so a lot of fans were buying the club's jerseys for the names of the players, but they weren't fans of the club. And so he said, well, how do I make these people who are buying these jerseys fans of our club? And I said, well, you use music. You use music. I will help you match the fans that you're looking to target with music fan bases. And if you use that music, you're going to be able to connect with those fans and they're going to love you for choosing that music. And that was really the beginning.
So tell me a bit more fundamentally the principle behind it. So you identified there's millions of musicians and potentially there are billions of fans. And then you have AI music that's commoditizing at least the production of audio tracks. And we're not going to debate like the quality of them, but they're just producing them. So explain to me a bit the model. So you found that the talent has fans and followings. How do you turn that into revenue for them? Because there's the path for revenue for artists already pretty present. They're not great. They're all complaining about Spotify. They're complaining about the big labels and the unfair, that they often have to pay them back money after they've signed a contract with them. So what's a new avenue that you identified for artists?
So it's all based on this concept of hyper-local, hyper-engaged fan bases. You got to think of engagement as different circles, right? If you're an artist and a brand can get between you and your mother, or your father, or your family, those people in your family are going to really like that brand, or at least they'll be curious about it and they'll tell their friends, they'll share the video, etc. That concept.
Because I played the track.
Because it's your track.
And they hear it.
And they're supporting you. This brand is supporting you, putting the music in their video, right?
Yeah.
This is sync, right? We're talking about distribution, which was 15 years ago with Spotify, and that's been democratized now, and everybody knows how it works, and you've got distributors and everything. But synchronization, which is putting music in content, right, is another way to consume music. It's not direct like on Spotify. It's let's consume it as part of another piece of content, right? And that is still a closed door for the haves that basically it's no access, right? Gatekeeping. It's a very gate-kept world. And so what I realized is, you've got 5.2 billion people scrolling every day. There's tons of discovery happening on social media. But the problem is these brands are all using stock music that doesn't connect. And it's even worse today because you've got AI content out there now.
Right.
And so you're scrolling. I mean, just look at the numbers. Engagement on platforms is down because people aren't connecting with the content. And this goes back to Silverchair, right?
Yeah.
I was like, music has this power to connect. If I serve you 10 videos and there's one of them that has music you love, I'm going to get you to watch longer. And we've already proven it. So that is how artists are able to A, get heard, right? Cut through the noise of all this AI music around, which was really our purpose in the beginning, but also get revenue. You know, in distribution, an artist gets paid about 2 months after a stream occurs. That's really, it's very low, the payment for most of them, but it happens
give me a
late.
sense, what's the payment that they're getting right now? What's the percentage?
It really depends on the market you're in.
Like a Spotify or what's the equivalent?
They all have different payouts, and it depends on the market because a lot of them have free tiers. So if you're in Latin America, it could be like a quarter of what it is in the US because there's the ad business here is much, much higher. The rates are higher. But in general, you know, I'd say it's anywhere between, you know, $2,000 and $3,000 per million streams, somewhere around there on Spotify, right? And so, yeah, when you're an artist that doesn't get a lot of streams, well, you're really not making that much. And again, I think that's an issue, but it's not the core of the problem. I think music is cheap and so it's cheap today. And so maybe there's models that need to change that, et cetera. But I don't think that's the real problem. The problem is there are few opportunities in a whole other revenues. There are no opportunities in a whole other revenue streams, stream that artists have for their music. That's called sync. And it's this kind of elusive thing that everybody thinks, oh, I'm never going to get into a movie. No director's ever going to use me.
Yeah.
But yet there's millions of pieces of content every day that we go through.
Explain a little bit what sync is. And you're talking about sync. This is across mediums, right? This is from the social media, short video clips that you see that have a synced piece of audio, all the way up to potentially a piece of content on Netflix, you know, or long form movies, etc.
It runs the gamut, right?
So how does the industry currently work, the sync industry at the moment?
So sync, to be clear, is a revenue stream. People call it a right. It is not. It's a revenue stream, just like distribution is a revenue stream. So people know how distribution works. Sync is over here. It is the ability to it defines the ability to put music in content. So it's like, you know, a movie, digital, social, all these types of things, they all have that sync component. Now, because the licensing of music is an old industry, it's gate kept, there's all these barriers to entry, right? Well, then brands today had to adapt. And so what are they using? They're using royalty-free stock music libraries, which they can download the songs in clicks. They don't have to worry. And that's that, right? And that's been going on for a long time. And, you know, we work a lot in sports, and I can tell you, you know, sports teams are either getting sued and, you know, USC versus Sony just like last month for 40 million. I mean, there's all these examples, or they're using these stock music libraries, and the producers of this content at the clubs that I talk to, they're pulling their hair out because like, how can we come up with a new cool idea for this reel? You know, they put out 4 or 5 pieces of content a day. They're dying to use real bespoke music.
Because right now, the way it works is, does this track work with my video? But you're basically adding an extra layer of value because you're saying, not only does that track work with my video, but it comes with a baked-in audience and fan base.
Correct.
So by connecting the two, potentially, there's an exponential value to that new piece of content that's created.
That is exactly right.
That's the super glue, or the super, you know, the
and it's
supercharging.
And it's data, right? So ultimately, you know, our USP, our unique proposal is data. So we have created an engagement-based data model that, just like I was talking about the circles of engagement, right? When you're a smaller artist, you are hyper engaged, right? Meaning you're not global yet. You're not Lady Gaga, right? There's an inverse relationship between the number of fans you have and how engaged they are. The bigger they get, the less engaged it is. So brands, all they care about is, are you going to care about this content? That's the game they're playing. If I serve you content, are you going to care about it? So if they now can have access to music that's hyper engaged and hyper local, say a local coffee shop, right, wants to run an ad on Instagram to get more people to come in. They today would use stock music. That's That's the system. That's how it works.
Yeah.
But what if the owner had been to a local show the week before and seen a local singer-songwriter, right, perform, right? And that singer-songwriter had posted or something, hey guys, my new singles just come out, go stream it on streaming platforms, but also, it's available for you to create moments with it. Like, this is a great relaxing track, maybe for some content for a coffee shop. Whoa. What should that owner do? Well, that owner should talk to that artist and say, we'd like to use your music in our spot.
Right.
And if we do that, guess what? All the local community who follow that artist are going to realize that that's happening, and people will show up at that coffee shop to drink coffee. And this is how now you could have local businesses competing with big conglomerates like Starbucks, for example, right? Because they're the local ones. They're the fabric of that community.
So effectively, let's plot. What's your brand called now?
It's Acrylic.
It's still Acrylic. So
and we're 4 businesses. We're a label, a publisher, a distributor, and now a sync marketplace, a music licensing marketplace.
So let's plot this. Let's say 5 years out, and sync marketplace now it's a scaled model.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like? Is it effectively a destination where creators, businesses, etc., go to shop for music? Is it something more automated that's integrated within social media platforms? What's sort of your vision? What's the path for the brand?
15 years ago, when the advent of Spotify and all that stuff happened, their independent distributors popped up, and now it was like, well, the onus is on you, the artist.
Yeah,
you have to do the work, right? I'm saying they can't do that work if there's a whole revenue stream that they don't have access to, right? That's sync. So what we're trying to do is to counterbalance, right? Help the distribution ecosystem work by offering this new, access open to all, right? Like, this is not gatekept. Any artist can come to Acrylic and upload their music and make it available for sync. Now, brands, what are they going to want? We just talked about it. They're going to want data. They want an edge, right? So like AI music, that doesn't give them any edge. But if we have a great data model to show the brands how this particular artist and their fan base gives your campaign an edge, then, we're creating opportunity on both sides of that marketplace. Mm-hmm. So I see that as very specific for brands. But then think of indie movie directors who want access to this kind of music,
right?
And the artists don't have the contracts. The artists don't know how to negotiate it. They don't have teams, right? Because now music is democratized, right? So like, there aren't enough people working in music to service all these people.
I mean, and I work in the field, and I know that, regularly we'll do a piece of content or we'll create an experience, and we have tight, bits of data on who's going to attend, what are they looking for, what tribes do they belong to, and it'll take us quite far, right, in terms of venues, treatments and color palettes and all mood boards. When we get to music, that there usually is a leap of faith.
Yeah.
And it'll be, what does the client think the demographic is going to like? And then also, what personally do they like? But what I think, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're going to add an extra dimension to that, because you'll be able to connect those attendees or that audience with the music they're already listening to, or perhaps music that others like them are listening to, that might be hyper local to the venue or to the piece of content. And so the stickiness and how compelling it is going to go through the roof, right? Yeah. That's part of the idea. That makes a lot of sense. I was curious to know, so flipping it back to the artist, what does that mean for artists? So I'm in my 20s, I'm doing producing, I'm seeing these new tools arrive. Yeah. I want to plot a career path for myself where potentially I can get revenue from music. I know you did plenty of other jobs to fund it. Maybe there's still some of that. What would be your advice to them? How do they sort of create a vision or a path for their careers that will allow them to, if not at least fund completely themselves, at least make it a substantial part of their revenue streams? How do they prepare themselves for it?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a tough one. I do believe that music is something that is very personal. And so a lot of artists don't care about getting big or getting famous. They're just doing it, because they want to do it. For those artists that really want to be heard and to grow, etc., I think it's important for them to understand that it's about who cares. At the end of the day, and as simply as I can, it's who gives an F, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, and so what does that mean when you're creating a brand? And an artist is a brand, right? Well, that means you need to have an aesthetic. That means you need to have something that's attractive to a certain kind of person that you identify with. And so
in a way, that's what you would have told probably an artist in the 70s, right?
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't changed.
Right?
None of this stuff has changed. It's just the tools around us have changed. The way it's monetized has changed. Like, those are the things that have changed.
But what has changed, though, is that the path was, 70s, 80s, here in LA, you'd try and get a gig at the Troubadour, you'd get, some track, and hopefully, they come and have a conversation about a contract. What's the path now with social, with, in effect, musicians need to be so much more. They need to produce their own stuff. They need to use the tools, mm-hmm. right? They need to create a social media following, mm-hmm. Build a gathering. Mm-hmm. And now, potentially with brands like Acrylic and what you're doing, there are new revenue streams. They maybe have to sort of create their content in a way that it appeals also to those types of platforms. Is it a lot more complicated? And is there, off the top of your head, what would be the things that they need to do today in addition to being an artist, make sure they have an image, make sure they have a sound? What are the things they need to do now that is different and that would make them sort of future-proof?
Yeah, I wish I could give you a different answer, but for me, like artists, back when I was a manager, I'd have some of the artists I represented come to me and say, I don't want to post today, Jeremy. I don't like it. This isn't cool. And I'd be like, you really have to, man. That's what your fans are. That's what you need to do. I look at Billie Eilish. Yeah. Okay, it's always dangerous to take these examples, but she's from LA, and she started out. She put a song out, Ocean Eyes, on SoundCloud. This is a SoundCloud track. How does she deal with social media? She does these carousels. She doesn't even post that often. She has a real aesthetic, Jan. Mm-hmm. She has something that she creates FOMO with. People keep coming back to her. It's not about, I got to post every day, or it's not about, I got to make this beautiful content or whatever. It's be yourself, be authentic, do what it is that your art calls you to do, but your focus is music.
But you also
make great music.
But the Billie Eilish example, there was a commitment to continuing the machine, right? I mean, she stays who she is. She connects with that audience in a very profound fashion, mm-hmm. because they don't just like her music. They feel that they're seeing something through the words that mm-hmm. resonates. Mm-hmm. Her aesthetic,
exactly.
Who she says she is, even parts of what she'll say about her private life. People will associate with that. And so whatever she does, there'll be a following and there'll be fandom around it, right? But at the same time, now that she's much bigger, but for artists who are aspiring to that, you have to commit to new dimension of tools and channels, right? You have to think more like an entrepreneur.
You do. I'd say what I do believe, and this goes for like more than artists, it's storytelling. This is all about storytelling, right? We talk to a lot of athletes,
right,
who also want to be using great music in their posts, but they're brands too, especially with these NIL laws and everything that have recently come up. Name, image, and likeness, and college sports athletes can now have brands and they get paid, so right. It changed the game. What we tell them is, sadly, you could have a career-ending injury, at any time. So you have to tell stories. People connect with stories. They might not be able to see you on the pitch anymore because you have this injury, but they might still follow you because of who you are and the story you're telling. Yeah. And so I think artists transcend their own music. Billie Eilish, great example. She transcends her own music. There's a core there that she identifies with and is clear about. But she's got a way of doing what she does. That's the artistry around it all. And so if you want to be an artist nowadays, you have to have that authenticity. You have to have that brand. And I think that is rare. Yeah. I think that is rare. And no matter what platforms you have or ways to monetize, like that kind of rarity, and it's less rare today because it's easier to get noticed, right? And music is cheaper to make. So like, I think it's way more available and out there. The difference is who's actually doing all this stuff and doing it in a way that connects and matters. And what we're doing at Acrylic, I think, helps artists get recognized, cut through all this AI stuff, right? Because music connects. So like we need to create new avenues for letting real music made by real humans connect through ads, connect through movies, connect through all kinds of content, right? Because we're not just for brands. We want to be for, movie directors making indie films and making it easier for them to get the music, right? So like this is really just like, how do we take this sync world and make it available for everybody, which was done 15 years ago to bail out the major labels through Spotify. But, this revenue stream is still open. It's still available. And so artists can grab it. They own it. They have the rights. This is their music. So we just need to figure out a way to make this more equitable for all and create more opportunities for all these independent musicians who frankly deserve it. This isn't a hobby. You need to have a clear path to a career here, especially 15 years ago, we told them, oh yeah, now there's distribution and now you're on your own. You got to figure it out. Well, let's help them also by figuring out synchronization.
And so, okay, so now how many years in are you to this new business model?
So we came up, the idea, the aha moment was in May of 2023.
Okay, so with a couple of years, I mean, we're basically 2 years in, right? They usually say, a business, for it to go into profit, 2 years is a good rule of thumb, right?
Is that what they say?
Like you go to Shark Tank and that kind of stuff. They look at the 2 year, it's 2 rounds of like business plans.
Fair enough.
Are we on track or not? Would you say, hey, are you on track? Do you feel?
I think we really are. I mean, for a tech platform as ambitious, I think as we want. We got into Techstars, which is one of the top accelerators in the world. Their program was the one we got into was Equitech, technology built for equity and opportunity in society, which meant a lot to me to get into that program. We have, one of the biggest soccer clubs in the world that we represent. We do all their music buying, and we've got others that we are talking to at high levels. There's also we haven't done much work with them yet, but we've had a lot of meetings with Instacart. That's been very exciting for us because they see the value of these communities and giving 100%. Back to communities and using local music to help. I mean, it makes a lot of sense for these players. The problem, Jan, is that we're so disruptive that these bigger players, they already have their ways of doing things. And so it's not that they're not interested. It's just that it takes a while for them to incorporate our method of doing things within their campaigns. So we're focusing a lot on sports because if we want to create a marketplace that excites independent artists and makes them want to come and work with us, I really think sports can be a really great path to that. Meaning all these sports clubs, they have a really high need for content, right? They're posting 4 or 5 times a day and they want great music. I'm not saying they won't use stock music ever again, but they're gonna want to use real music to connect with fans in their local communities. Like, I don't understand why a local club here isn't giving back to its own community by using the music made by the people in their own community who probably are fans of theirs, right? I mean, to me, that never made sense to me. So unlocking that, I think, is gonna be a great first step because I do believe that a lot of artists want their content in creating these moments, right? These memorable moments with sports teams. And we're proving it. We've shown that we're able to create incredible engagement, really amazing videos with independent music from local communities. That is literally breaking engagement records for some of the biggest clubs in the world. And that's cool because that shows that this really has a future.
So what is it that you need now? What does this type of model need now to be able to get to the next level?
That's a really good question. I mean, frankly, we're raising right now. So I'm talking to a lot of VCs currently. I think
what will we use the money for?
I mean, to finish building the platform. So the platform is half built. Artists can actually sign up on our website, acrylic.la, and we can get them set up. But what we don't have yet is the fully fledged data model. We have it. It's there, but we need to hire a data engineer and to connect it to the platform, et cetera. And then we need to create the other side of this, which is the client dashboard, right? So for clients to come in, tell us a little bit about who we are, and use that to then connect them with local artists or emerging talent or even big artists. I mean, we can work with the major labels too. We have. Just recently, I licensed some music from them. So like, it's not always about the data, right? A brand might want to use something that's already known, right? But I think the important thing to say here, beyond what we need, because that to me sounds like a limiter, and I'm just all about positive and the glass half full, right?
Yeah.
Is what we're actually doing here. What we're doing here is we're creating data that's going to educate brands on what it is they're choosing. So, is this song going to create culture? Is it less heard? So we have this thing called a curative score. If this song has a curative score of 80, it means that you're going to create culture. If you use this song in your ad, not that many people know it.
Well,
right?
I think also the beauty of it is, as we're doing, the group that I'm a part of, we do also a lot of commercials. And one of the exciting territories is that global campaigns can at the same time become hyper-local. So you can have a global Coke campaign that in every region has percentages of the assets that have been replaced or fine-tuned by AI, anything from like lip sync to decor. And then the audio could be my town, my village, my département in France, right? And so suddenly something local can also be global. You've got the depth and you've also got the breadth. That's an exciting position to be in.
It's super exciting.
I'm curious to know, with hindsight, so 2 years in, you're seeking funding, the platform works, you're already beginning to generate revenue, you've got some big titles behind you. Are you looking at the future with AI with abundance, or are you looking with cautious optimism, or is AI the enemy? What's maybe it's a too strong a word, but where's your head at right now?
Abundance, fully abundance. I think AI is a technology that we all need to embrace as the incredible tool that it is. But you know what? It's not an edge. You use it, I use it, we all use it.
Right.
That's not what moves the world forward. What moves the world forward is people looking for edges, right? People, right? Not robots.
Right.
Looking for edges because we have our experiences, our journeys, right? You've got a journey, I've got a journey.
Yeah.
So like, we are all trying to use the tools around us. AI is one of the most powerful tools anyone that humanity's ever actually had access to. I mean, maybe after the internet, but like, AI is incredible. I just focus on it as a limiter. Not a limiter, sorry, as something that everybody else has, that if I don't use, I'm a has-been, right? And so it's the same with data. And, in sports, one of my favorite, I wish I could meet him one day, but like Billy Bean, Moneyball, this is if people are watching and are curious about what we do, go watch Moneyball, because what we are doing at Acrylic is exactly a carbon copy of the Moneyball story, And so I see guys like that who use data in innovative ways. There's not a single sports club that doesn't use data today. And back in the early 2000s, none of them did. So what I'm saying is, Acrylic wants to create a world where now, when you're picking music for your content, for your ads or whatever, you've got the data next to you just to make sure that actually this makes sense, because there's a lot of choices. 120,000 tracks released every day on Spotify.
Right.
That's a ton of choice. That's great. But it's not perfect for what you want to do. And to get closer to that perfection, you need data, you need a guide. And so that's really, I think, what music is lacking, what the music ecosystem is lacking, is a real system to help brands figure out what music they should be using, just like Billy Bean did in Moneyball.
Right. I think that's a great way to place it, is ultimately, yes, there's going to be more music, ultimately with AI. Probably there's going to be some vanilla music.
Tons of it.
Cookie cutter. It's going to dilute, in some extent, some of those, what are now, it's weird to call Spotify a legacy platform, but it's probably going to dilute those types of legacy platforms. But at the same time, when people are looking for connection, when they are looking for a tribe, there's also going to be new opportunities for those artists who have that appetite and that passion to connect with their demographic, and then also to show up in front of brands, in front of labels, with that additional layer of, muscle and negotiation, because now they can say, I'm not on my own. It's not just a great track. It's a track that has a following, that has a stamp geographically, right?
Yeah.
That has a relevance culturally with these subgroups. And I think as content and channels are also evolving, and we spoke about the depth and the breadth of how, content is being transformed, potentially that could be an exciting new avenue. So before we close, the people who are watching, who are musicians, who are in the music business, particularly people who are early in their career, what would be a message to them that would really give them hope, and where should they focus their attention? I mean, obviously they're going to go check out Acrylic, but what else could they be doing today to really sort of grab the bull by the horns? What are the things that you do? You're incredibly busy as an entrepreneur. What are the things that you do to stay ahead and to make sure that you seize the opportunity as opposed to being on the back foot?
So, I mean, I'm no longer a musician, but I first of all, I just think we're at a huge shifting point in the music business. So I would just tell artists to keep doing what they love. If it's something that they love, and you just keep doing it. The band that gifted us this shirt back then, Masta Kuba and Prince Jaguar, if they're hearing me, they never asked for money. They never did anything for money, but yet they wake up and they do it every single day. And that hope is just, it's not based on any platform. It's just the power of music, right? And so that's maybe a general thing. One thing that I do in work that I think musicians could do more of is hyper-targeting, right? We're always we want to do like, let's connect with so many people at once, like send an email out to like 500, spam people, right? No, that's not the way. You want to find the people that matter to you, whether it's a manager or a label or someone you want to work with. You want to study that person. Now there's podcasts you can listen, and people do podcasts all the time. Like, do that work, right? And then use tools like, I use tools like, I don't know if artists are using Pipedrive, but like, Pipedrive with Surf. Surf is a way to use LinkedIn to basically scour the internet and find an email address, right? So if you had hyper-targeted one person and you needed their email, there's ways of getting that email. Don't stop yourself there. And then we touched upon this before, and this I think is one of the most important things that they can do. And I'll repeat it clearly, but tell your fans to go create moments with your music. So when you're releasing a new track, you want to say, hey guys, go stream on streaming platforms. Here's the link to go listen. But also, go create moments with my music. This music is amazing for a wedding video or a snowboarding video or any kind of other video that the music is good for. Why? Because that literally opens a door called synchronization. That all of a sudden, if you're followed by one marketing director who likes your music and realizes, oh wow, like, she's right or he's right, like I could use that music, right? Now they contact you and they say, hey, could we license that from you? And there you go. But
it might also be other content creators who themselves are trying to make their drama or trying to be an influencer. Could be so many people. And they could be using that content.
You're absolutely right.
So it's all helping each other and all that. Jérémy, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love your passion. This is for breakfast, and we're literally doing this for breakfast first thing in the morning. I'm freaking energized for the day.
Thank you.
Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks you so much, and best of luck with your business.
Good luck, guys. Good luck, musicians. Let's go.